she wore red trainers. It's like a contemporary YA Muslim romance. I don't know a ton about it because I haven't read any of it yet. When Ali first meets Amirah, he notices everything about her: her hijab, her long eyelashes, and her red trainers. In the time it takes to have one look before lowering his gaze, and although Ali is still coming to terms with the loss of his mother and exploring his identity as a Muslim, and although Amirah has sworn never to get married, they can't stop thinking about each other. Can Ali and Amirah ever have a halal happily ever after? I just noticed this thing on my window. No. No. Back to book news. I just finished chapter 1 of this. It's really good. The writing style is fast and easy to breeze through. She also has a guide that also tells you what all of the words and phrases mean, and a lot of them are really long phrases. He finds out that he is going to be moving to London for the summer with his dad. His dad's business is not doing great. His mom has recently died, so it's him, his brother, and his dad that are going to be moving there, and they're going to be going to a community where pretty much everyone is Muslim, and it's like a gated community. He also references that he had a girlfriend, but it seems like the family had fallen away from their religion for a while, but then whenever the mother died, they realized that they needed Allah, so they started following all the religious practices again, which meant he could no longer have a girlfriend. He can't make a second glance at a girl or have any physical contact with a girl, and no dating is allowed. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. It seems like it is definitely an Own Voices story. However, I've read another Own Voices story with Muslim representation that was criticized because during the book, the teenager kind of complains about all of the things that they have to do because of their religion. Just know that any comments that I make about this are coming from a westernized point of view. Naima B. Roberts, who has South African, Zulu, and Scottish roots, was born in England, grew up in Zimbabwe, and converted to Islam in 1998 at the age of 21 after visiting Egypt as a student. She graduated from the University of London and is founder and editor-in-chief of the UK-based Muslim women's magazine Sisters. She has published many picture books with Muslim themes and 4 young adult novels, From Somalia with Love, Boy vs. Girl, Black Sheep, and Far From Home. She has also published a memoir, From My Sister's Lips, and a series of children's nonfiction books under her family name, Thanando McLaurin. Naima B. Roberts is married with 5 children and divides her time between London and Egypt. I cannot imagine having 5 kids and being able to write. I can't. Props to her. She says, if you think I'm going to be one of those deadbeat sisters on the dole, popping kids out every year, you've got another thing coming. I would never consider a parent, like a mother of children, to be a deadbeat. It says, once you're married, you're safe. You're off the streets. You're not a fitna, a trial. You've got someone to take care of you. This was my background. These were the ideas I grew up hearing. But I was never like the other girls. So it literally says not like the other girls. You could say I was cut from a different cloth. But considering that this is a romance, I think that there's going to be character growth and changing before you just completely write her off for that. Her mom has been married like 4 times, and it opens up in the chapter where the guy has just like walked out on them in the middle of the night. So they took care of the children, her and her brother, not the mom. The mom was like laying on a bed and she was sweaty. It's chapter 3. I finished chapter 3. He just fell instantly in love with this girl. She came outside. She called this other guy's name who he was playing basketball with, and she was wearing her hijab, and then she kind of like brushed it back a little bit. And he was just like, she's beautiful. And then he realized that he was like lusting after her, so he like quickly looked down, and she was wearing red trainers, hence the title. She wore red trainers. And the cute thing is that he also wears red trainers. The plan was to show y'all the sunset but it's too cloudy. So this is the sunset tonight. Here's my back porch. This was why I wanted this house, because it's got a huge back porch. I am now on chapter 6, so I just finished chapter 4 and chapter 5. In chapter 4, we see that she's also instantly attracted to him. In chapter 5, we get to see him with one of the new guy friends that he's made, and we find out that his guy friend is like a straight guy doing fashion, and they have this really cool conversation where the guy was like, yeah, I know it's not typical for men to be in fashion that are like straight, and then the other guy is like, well, I wouldn't think of a Muslim man doing fashion either, because of like having to be around all the models and doing like runway shows and all of that kind of stuff. And his guy friend was like, well, God gave me a gift to design clothes. It's made my sisters really happy because they always had the best dressed Barbies because he would design outfits for them. He says, but what I specialize in is like modest dress for Muslim women or just other people who have like a funky sense of style but are also like want like modest clothing. So I thought that was really cool and a cool discussion to have as well, with like how sometimes what you want to do or what you're gifted in doesn't necessarily seem like it would align with whatever your religious beliefs are. I really liked his approach to it with the fashion thing. He's like, I know this is my gift, so I'm gonna do it to like honor Allah. And as far as the parts that don't necessarily fully align, I'm trying to find ways to navigate that. Like having other people do the fashion show portion, but him still designing all of the clothing. Now we're on to her chapter, and she's in a park and she's talking about how everything being beautiful and surrounded by nature makes her want to pray. And then she says this, what if someone saw me? What if people stared? Would they take me for some extremist nutter and call the park ranger? No safer to sit and contemplate. I could always read from a pocket-sized Quran without attracting too much attention. Sigh. The life of a post-9/11 7/7 Muslim in London. Attracting bees or moths? There's so many. Okay, I'm going in. This was what was flying around, and no, I'm not flipping it over because I don't want it there. Or maybe I should flip it over so it goes away. Oh my gosh. Okay, don't fly at me. I'll flick it off and hope it... Okay, there. Oh, it's on the floor. Bear, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Ew, do not. Do not! Bear! Okay, it's flying again. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta get out of here before it lands in my hair. Okay. Education time. The 7/7 bombings were the first major terror attack on British soil since the Lockerbie bombings, and the first suicide bombings the country had faced. The plot involved 4 terrorists who had created homemade explosive devices which they planned to detonate on busy public transport routes in the capital. In the southeast corner of Hyde Park, there are 52 stainless steel pillars arranged in 4 groups. These were commissioned as tribute to the victims of the attacks and put up in 2009 on the 4th anniversary of the bombings. The 52 pillars each represent one of the people killed, and the 4 groups represent the 4 sites that were attacked. A bus, which was commissioned to replace the one damaged in the attacks, was named the Spirit of London as a tribute to those who died on 7/7. It's chapter 7, so Deen, like D-E-E-N, means way of life or religion, and there's a part in here where the guy is saying that he has like a motorcycle club, basically, and that at first he and the other guys kind of realized that it didn't match up with Deen. And so they found a way, kind of like the other guy with the fashion, to make it to where it would be okay. So they have like this bikers club, but they do events for like charity from the book. In my community, a boy meets girl romance normally results in heartbreak, betrayal, and a damaged reputation, for the girl, of course. In every scenario I had ever seen, it was the girl who paid the price for entertaining the guy's advances. Because that's what guys do, right? They try it. They keep knocking and knocking and knocking until someone lets them in. That's their job. The job of a girl with her head screwed on is to not be the fool who opens the door to the fitna, which there was a definition which basically just meant like temptation, to the fitna, dressed up like Prince Charming. So back to the paradox of the human condition. I knew all this. I was painfully aware of the price to be paid for embarking on the pointless obsession that could so easily lead to haram, the forbidden. So I mastered myself. Every time he popped into my head, it is like I was closing the curtains, shutting him out. I probably wouldn't ever see him again anyway. I would not talk about him. I would definitely not ask Zaid about him. I would not even think about him at all. No one needed to see my drawing. It could be my little secret. Well, of course, the secret will probably come out because that always happens. Her friend is a designer and they have like a Muslim fashion show. She basically said some people they do without in order to help. Some people go to whatever the places are that need help and they volunteer their time and their efforts. And then other people throw what is basically a halal prom, is what she said. He also knows that the girl that he looked at and was attracted to is Zaid's sister, so she's completely off limits. So you've got the forbidden romance in the sense of new friend's sister, so he shouldn't go near her. And then you also have the religious aspect from both characters, that they should not get involved with each other because they're not ready for marriage and there's not like regular dating. There's even more diversity in here that you find out in this chapter. In the beginning of it, you find out that one of her brothers is actually deaf, so he uses sign language, and that's how the whole family communicates. But the mom is like in a depressive state and she's on antidepressants, and she is going through what they call the waiting period or the adai for, I guess she can try to get remarried. The thing with the mom is that she didn't graduate, so the only way to really support her family and her kids is to be married to a man. And that seems to be the situation for a lot of the women in this character's life, and that's why she has such a negative view of marriage and doesn't want to be like other Muslim women, because she doesn't want to have to rely on a man for anything. So she's talking to her friend who came from a happy household with a great marriage between her parents, but unfortunately her father died. And she said, you don't know what it's like to have stepdads and divorces and waiting periods going on around you since you were little. You're not a victim of your mother's chaotic love life, basically. And then she says, I felt bad then. It wasn't Mom's fault, not really. She just didn't pick husbands very well. Either that or she was a magnet for losers, troublemakers, and men who just did not know how to value her. That wasn't the first time Mom's relationship had failed. She'd had my older brother, Zaid, when she was 17, and me 3 years later. Neither of our fathers had stuck around long enough to name us, so we had to spend our early years with my nan while Mom tried to finish school, get a hairdressing qualification, anything to get some money coming in and some independence. But then she met Uncle Faisal. He was running a dawah stall on Brixton High Street telling passerby about Islam. Mom had stopped to listen and had been moved by the message. She always told us that it was the purity of Islam, the worship of one God, the clean lifestyle that had first attracted her to the religion. So she accepted Islam, and Uncle Faisal asked her to marry him. Told her he would provide for her and her kids, honor her as his wife. That was more than anyone else had ever offered her. That was how we ended up together in a flat in Stockwell, a family at last. Those were happy years. Mashallah. Zaid and I loved Uncle Faisal like a real dad, and he treated us just like his own kids. But still, it's her uncle. If it's their Uncle Faisal, then maybe that means it was the guy who ran out on her's brother? So that wouldn't be the same because there's no blood relation. There's no blood relation, fine. If there's blood relation, no. No, I'm sorry. I am not. No. It goes beyond the uncles, y'all. Just keep reading. It says Mom had married 2 more times after that, so now she's on to 4 serious relationships. No kids. Polygamy each time. I could not. No, I would not be competing with other spouses. Oh my, I just can't imagine. I would feel like I was getting cheated on. I could not be in a relationship like that. Like, okay, so in America, if people are in polyamorous relationships and stuff by choice, that's one thing. I'm not here to judge. But in some of these situations, I'm just like, I don't feel like the woman has a choice. And obviously the mom is not happy with all of those relationships because she's super depressed. And all of her relationships have failed. And if you felt like you were getting cheated on and the man kept walking out on you to be with wife number 2, you'd probably be pretty depressed too and want a divorce. So I don't know. Finished chapter 10. She went to the mall with her friends, so they were talking about fashion stuff again and like the differences and how the different girls dress. She also mentioned a friend who had converted to Islam who was white with red hair. So there's definitely a lot of variation in here with the characters. I believe the main female character is black. The main male character perspective, she said that he was biracial. I don't know what his 2 races are. I know one of them is probably black based off of the skin tone, but I don't know what the second one is. And then they also mentioned one friend without saying that she was fat. It was clear to me with the sentence that she was like plus size. So I'm very happy about that. Oh my. So this is our main female character's view on Muslim men. She says, "Listen, lady, let me spell it out for you. Muslim men these days want all the perks and none of the hard work. They want the little obedient wife who will give it up whenever they're in the mood, who will have 10 gazillion children and homeschool them all and help pay the rent. Why? Because they're spoilt and too lazy to get off their backsides and step up to the plate like real men." And then her friend says, "Really?" piped up Yasmin. "Your brother doesn't seem that type. I think he'd make someone a great husband." It's really cool because every time she says something, like her other Muslim friends kind of challenge it. So none of it seems one-sided, even though she's the main character. So this is said about her white friend who converted to Islam. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't a big deal for us born Muslims, but she was definitely the most conscientious about things like that. When you're born Muslim, you tend to take certain things for granted, accepting the rules pretty much without question, and getting on with life. But as a convert, or a revert, as she liked to be called, everything for Samai was deliberate, a conscious decision to choose the correct Islamic position to halalify her life in every area. I thought she'd be really offended by Rainia's low blow, but she just shook her head. "No, babe," she said, nibbling on a piece of lettuce. "I've done research into this." "Of course," I added. She shot me a look. "And my decision to be vegetarian is not haram because I'm not saying that it is forbidden to eat meat. I am choosing not to because I disagree with the way animals are treated and the whole way in which modern farming works. Did you know that they have bred bulls that have butts so big that they can't reproduce properly?" What? This is just like, it's a cute book because I think that there is going to be some character development for like our 2 main characters that we get to see, and just like opinions and stuff like that may be changing over the course of time. I like the level of diversity that's in here, and it's not just like blanket diversity where it's thrown in. Like it carries throughout. It's not just mentioned in one chapter. Like it's every single chapter where you're getting to see just how they live their lives, and it's just like normal teenagers. Just finished chapter 20, still really liking it. It's actually getting pretty good. The guy that she likes but doesn't really know and has had like a 3-sentence conversation with at this point started doing sign language with her brother, which, yeah, that is a very attractive quality. I agree with her on that. And then later on in the book, his brother gets in trouble with the police because he had gotten in a fight with some other neighborhood kids that were basically like a gang, and if you get into their territory and you're not part of their gang, they just like beat you up. So that's what happened with that. And then she's having a conversation with her brother. He mentions that his friend that he studied with in Saudi Arabia is wanting to get married, so he suggested his sister as a potential match. So they just had an argument about that, and she's like, I do not ever want to get married. I know my rights. I will say that as far as Muslim representation and learning something, this is one of the best ones that I've seen for really diving into that, because a lot of other ones are kind of surface level, or they deal with one aspect of being Muslim but not like the whole thing. This feels like the daily life of a Muslim teenager. I don't even know what's really going to happen with the romance, if there's even going to be a romance. It is following a male character and a female character, and they are both attracted to each other, but because they are both serious about their faith, she doesn't want to be like the traditional Muslim woman who gets married right out of A-levels or whatever and starts having babies, but she still does follow all of the religious stuff. She just does not agree with that aspect of like a woman being meek and subservient, which is like her words in here. So she's like, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to be married to a man that has multiple wives. Like, that's not for me. I don't know what's going to happen, because if they are keeping it halal, then they don't really date. You just get married without ever really dating. At least that's kind of what it seemed like with some of this. Or maybe you can date, but it's with the approval of both of your parents with the intention of marriage. So I guess that wouldn't really be regular dating. It would be you're engaged and dating with the intent to marry. I have no idea. So yeah, I'll just be learning more as I read. I am 104 pages into this, so not quite halfway done, but almost. I think about another 25 pages, I'll be at the halfway mark. I finished this book. It was definitely worth the amount of hours that were put into it. I would say it's at least like a 4.5 or even a 5-star. It's hard because usually with a 5-star, I feel like I need to like cry and just have emotions like that deep. And I tend to want there to be a bit more romance with some physical elements, whereas with this one, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that they keep it halal the whole time. Okay, so I am going to get into a bit of the events that happened in the latter half. I think where we left off was that her brother was setting her up with one of his friends that he went to school with in Saudi Arabia. She is not happy about this. They get into arguments about it. The other guy that's in this book, Ali, finds out that this guy is now interested in her, and he realizes that he's also interested, even if that means pursuing a relationship toward like getting married, basically. Because with them, there's literally no dating. There's not even an engagement period. It is when you decide that's someone that you want to know, and that way you just get married. There was another relationship discussed where the couple gets married. They live separately for like 6 months when they're getting to know each other, and then they live together as husband and wife. With this one, she winds up going with him to Mexico because he's going to be working there with deaf children, and she has told him no, that she wasn't going to be with him because she didn't feel like she was good enough, and he didn't know her past, and he tried to reassure her that he didn't care about her past, like it didn't matter, and that he had also had a past, and really that the fact that both of them had like baggage was one of the reasons why he wanted her so bad, because they could come together and work on all of those things and work on becoming better Muslims together. As far as the sexual nature of the book, I guess you would say, you literally do not even see a kiss. There is no kiss. None. No kiss. They literally, you don't even touch the person. Like, you don't even shake their hand until you're married. So, because that is like a very, the restrictiveness is like, that is the restrictiveness that's expected of you as a Muslim person, then the no kiss thing made sense. But I did appreciate that this one did mention other physical things that wound up kind of having the same effect as a kiss would have had at the end of the book, because they had not experienced any touch at all. So he says, I first touched Amir when we had boarded our flight to Mexico as man and wife. At last I was able to kiss her fingertips and stroke the cleft in her chin. At last I could feel her touch the mole on my left hand and caress my knuckles. At last we could laugh about our matching trainers. We had so much to catch up on, so much to share, but there would be time for that later, the next day, and the next day, and the day after that. In fact, we had the rest of our lives, inshallah, which means God willing. She has a guide in the back. I do like that it was in there, because if I was a Muslim teen, I would be like, yes, I know what those terms are, and I know all the slang, and it would just be awesome to read in a book. So I appreciated that it was there. And I did look up some of the ones that didn't seem just like a regular greeting to find out what they meant. So I learned a few things. The stepdad in this one is a creeper. So warning for that. It does not get into a lot of graphic detail. The most it says is that there was a night where she woke up and he was in her bedroom. Like standing in her bedroom, not like in her bed. And after that night, she started blocking her door. Thank goodness. She tells her mom that this stuff happened once her mom pulls herself out of her funk long enough to kick the dude out. And then she trusts her mom to put her first, because she did. And that's when she opens up to her about it. There is a lot of the sibling relationship stuff going on in here, with Zaid wanting her to get married or like stay with the faith in certain instances when he thinks that she might stray, because she seems like she is attracted to this boy that she doesn't know. So you get to see the sibling relationship, which I thought was really cool. Every single chapter talk about being Muslim. So if you want to really be immersed in it and learn about it, then this would be great for that, because I think a lot of the other books that I've read that have Muslim representation, it focuses on like the fasting element, or maybe it mentions prayer a few times, but it doesn't really focus a lot on the actual relationship with Allah, whereas this one very much so focuses on the relationship with Allah, the expectations that are put on you as a Muslim person, the struggles with those things, coming to terms with those things, certain family members not following the religion. Like, it covers everything. This was a great book. That's all I can really say right now, because if I give you more details, I can sit here and this will be an hour long. But I pretty much told you everything. So if you're not interested yet, I don't think you will be. But yeah, that was She Wore Trainers.